Very good evening to everybody. It's the last day of May, which means tomorrow, the 1st of June, we move from level 4 to level 3 in terms of lockdown, and I'm sure lots of riders champing to get back to their horses come tomorrow. Now, remember, if you are going to get on a fresh horse, just make sure the cameras are rolling and post all your funny moments to Facebook so we can all have a giggle. We've got to bring some sort of a sense of humor to these trying times. Conversations with myself, Aidan, from Lockdown, brought to you by Kyalami Park Equestrian Club in association with Mumpro SA and I4 Williams Trailers. We do hope that you are enjoying the series. Please feel free to comment and to share to all your social media platforms. Well, we've been chatting to a lot of riders in this series, and tonight it's a little bit different because the lifeblood of the sport in no small way is brought by the sponsors. And a man who has been involved with equestrian sport for quite some time now is Mark White of Mark White Nissan. And tonight we pick his brain and chat to him about his involvement and about his business. Very good evening, Mark. How are you?
Good, and you, Aidan? Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. How's lockdown been treating you? I see you're a little growing a bit of stubble. Is that which I haven't seen before? Is that your lockdown look?
That's my lockdown look. Lockdown haircut. Had to do it myself, so not too sure what the back looks like, but I can see the front.
Well, look, so, you're not alone.
Yeah,
you're not alone.
There we go.
Yes, I thought since we are in prison, time for a prison haircut, so I got out the old horse clippers and did it myself. Desperate times, desperate measures, and all that.
Yeah, we've learned a few new things in lockdown, like leave and mowing the lawn and cutting the trees and all those good things. So I suppose it's not all the end of the world.
Absolutely. Mark, level 3, have you guys been able to operate, or you go back to business tomorrow?
Well, no. We've actually been operating since level 5. How it worked in level 5 for certain dealerships was you could sign on for essential service work. So any vehicles that were then at that time delivering essential services in level 5 that did require repairs, we could conduct them to keep those essential vehicles on the road to do their job in terms of what they were providing to the then infrastructure in level 5. So I've actually been at work since basically the first week of April. Pretty much most days trying to look after essential services vehicles. And then obviously that then changed to level 4, which gave us a little bit more scope, where we were entitled then to service essential service vehicles, not just repair to keep them on the road. And we could then also repair non-essential service vehicles. If your car was then obviously broken down, we could now come out and fix your car for you. But sales was still off the table for a couple of weeks while we lobbied with government to get back onto the sales train. And it came back where obviously we're only allowed 30% of staff. So that curtails what volumes you can do. And then plus we were allowed to sell, but under very strict conditions, where we had to go to people's homes to deliver if you did do a sale. No sort of test drives unless by appointment. No people just coming in to browse on the showroom. You have to make an appointment to come and look at a car, etc. So it was very onerous in terms of trying to manage that situation with regards to selling as such. And also this 30% was very difficult. Even in the workshop, we had to be 30%. So we couldn't take all the cars that we would like to have taken in to fix or service, and we had to obviously stagger it, and we weren't allowed to ramp that up in terms of people. So it was a difficult time, and obviously curtails your opportunity to add to the turnover. So you are limited to what we've done in May. So May is just finished, and unfortunately it continues to be it was a little better, obviously, because there was some turnover, but it still, unfortunately, led to a lot of difficult moments and continuing losses. But that's the way it is for now.
So as we move now tomorrow into level 3, are you allowed to operate at full strength?
Not much has really changed for us. Yes, we are now entitled to bring all of our staff back. But once again, do we need all the staff at this point in time in the sales / or certain other admin level environments? No, because we don't have the volumes there any longer. So where it will help from tomorrow is in the service, where we can bring the entire service team back and then therefore take in more cars. But again, it's still small volumes. People still tend to be a little apprehensive about coming out, it seems, or in terms of buying anyway. And I think one can understand it. You know, the reality is that most people are not sure, do they have a job next month? Where are their companies in this cycle, etc. So I think a lot of people won't be rushing out to buy a car in these moments. We'd obviously like it to be different, but I think one has to be realistic that it's going to be tough times for the motor industry going forward. Recovery, who knows, could be anything up to a year. We don't know.
How badly was the motor industry, or has the motor industry been hit in terms of not just sales but also manufacturing? Does Nissan manufacture locally, or is it getting imported?
There's a local factory for Nissan where the NP200 and the NP300 is produced. Plus, we were going to produce from November Navara for the world. All right-hand drive markets in the world, Navara would have been built in South Africa. That has now been postponed until next year because of COVID. And our factory still, as of tomorrow, won't even be opening up. They look to be opening probably around about the end of the month only, end of June, that they will open again the factory. So obviously it's a massive situation for them. Nissan worldwide have taken some quite sort of bold steps. They closed their Barcelona plant, which led to riots in Spain and in Barcelona itself, where they were burning tires and against the situation. So it's affecting everybody everywhere in the world, this shutdown and this COVID situation we find ourselves in. So what is the recovery? When will it happen? You know, your scenarios are that April was zero turnover. So whatever your expenses are was your loss. And May, there's a little bit of turnover, and so you reduce the loss. But how long will it take us before we start to show profits again? My assumptions that I've done in figures, and that's just relying on the fact that people do come and buy to what I say they might buy. I don't see us returning to profits until next year, March, at this rate. But one might be, hopefully I'm wrong and it comes quicker. Maybe people decide that life is short and let's go buy cars. You never know.
Yeah. And in terms of your business, will you survive, Mark? I mean, have you got stuff put away for a rainy day, or is it at this stage it's like all of us, we just don't know?
Yeah, we don't know. You know, at the end of the day, we've got mechanisms in place that we've fortunately, the gearing is still not too bad for us as a business, but how long can you continue if the losses, depending on the size of the losses, you know? So the reality is that, at this stage, we look okay. But if things don't pick up sort of within, the early part of the new year, then it could become a bigger problem for all of us. But I mean, I think that it's not just my business. I think that would be many businesses that rely on customers to buy, and retail is going to be tough, I think, across the board. I mean, we've already seen many things like Edcon under big pressure could go into business rescue. Obviously the SAA saga continues. There's a lot of companies that are in distress or under a lot of pressure with this situation, and we know that many little businesses probably won't reopen ever again. I think some people might have just shut doors already and said, "That's it, I'm not coming back." But we have to be optimistic, and it's a challenge that we all didn't foresee coming our way. But at the end of the day, it's like life, and it's called survival, and we'll get through it. Somewhere along the other side, we'll come out on the other side, hopefully all intact. But it won't. It's not the first thing that's happened in the world that's caused lots of drama. So it's just a matter of this era of human beings getting through this situation, and hopefully coming out better people and stronger for it on the other side. Let's see where we end.
I want to talk to you about your business and what you offer in terms of new cars and the second-hand market and all that kind of thing. But we'll come back to that. Let's get to the horsey side of the interview. You've been involved as a sponsor of show jumping for quite some time now, but you're not a man who comes from a horse background or rode or had any involvement in horses yourself. So how exactly did you get involved and why?
Well, yeah, I think, I probably didn't know the front end of a horse to the back end of a horse, to be honest. And Nicole will always tell you that when I first started, I called them hooves instead of, or paws instead of hooves. So she used to always say to me, I said, "You got to lift those paws a little higher," when she knocked a pole down. So she says, "What are you talking about?" So we've learned a lot about horses, though. But how it really worked was in 2009, in fact, when Nissan became involved as a sponsor at the Easter Festival. We had been chatting around about how did we take product to the show, and that's obviously when the tent was developed with test drives, and basically like an outdoor showroom was created at the Easter Festival. And at that point in time, I just started the business in February, and that was April, and very few dealers wanted to participate with Nissan in that Easter show. And I think that's because they'd already, Easter's is a holiday time, and their staff would have probably already all put in leave. So many dealers declined to participate in that. And this then led to them saying, "Well, would I do the whole weekend?" Which, being a new business, I said yes, because anything to put my brand out into the marketplace was important to me. And if it meant working Easter, well, then so be it. That wasn't a problem to work Easter for us. And because of that, we just stayed with it. And we stayed with it for the 10 years that it operated, basically from 2009 to 2019. But it was part of my strategy was to align myself with something. At the end of the day, when you're a business, where do you go? How do you market? Where do you go? Do you just blanket market right out there to every Tom, Dick and Harry, and hope for the best? Also, so it was more a strategic decision to align myself with something where I saw potential, because there's a lot of people in show jumping, and well, the horse world is, in fact, in South Africa, it's large. If you really do a little bit of investigation, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the horsey world, whether it's in racing or show jumping, equitation, dressage, etc., and there's a passion there. So you marry the two together. I'm passionate about what I do, and there's a massive passion in the horse fraternity. I mean, let's be frank, that people are, I think the horses come long before most other things in a lot of areas there. So that sort of was my whole sort of strategy, was to link myself with one identity, not to have 10 identities. And so it just developed through the years that I stayed with it, but obviously I got more involved. And that then led to some riding sponsorships with Nicole, getting introduced to Henning with Capital Stud. So that was that relationship that was then born. Plus then we also did equitation. So we got involved with equitation. But the strange thing is, before that, my very first sort of entry into horses was Lipizzanas. A lady by the name of Judy Virtue phoned me and said, "Listen, I need some money. We don't, Lipizzanas is battling. Don't you want to do something?" So I didn't know too much at that stage either. So I gave them some money, and I can't even remember. We did a little function or something. I think we put some cars in the Lipizzana arena. So that was my very first introduction into horses. But I stayed with the Lipizzanas long after that. We stayed with them, and in fact, every year we still do Father's Day show with the Lipizzanas, and they drive the cars inside the arena with the horses and do a little bit of a show with the cars. So I've been with Lipizzanas for 10 years, in fact, slightly longer than the Nissan Easter Festival. And so that's how it came about. And then obviously because there was equitation, and then I do also sponsor Shannon Smith. She rides under two of my names as such. So I've kind of tried to branch out a little bit into other avenues, not just the Easter Festival. So that's how it kind of where it came from. And obviously, as you go into something, I kind of found I quite like show jumping. It's great fun. There's the actual atmosphere at a show, the actual physical, there is excitement. I used to always believe, no, there's not too much excitement in watching people jump over fences. But until you've experienced it and got involved with it, there's excitement in show jumping, and it's a hell of a lot of fun. And, with 6 bar 2, great excitement there as well, so all of those things, it's actually a great sport, of which I think probably it's a little bit underplayed in the South African market, show jumping. I think it deserves a little bit more than what it does actually get in terms of its exposure and what kind of a sport it really is. But that unfortunately can be said for a lot of minority sports. They don't probably all get the right recognition, but show jumping has got a lot to offer in terms of that sort of atmosphere. In terms of the crowds, the great crowd participation. Derbies have also been unbelievably. The atmosphere at a derby has always been great. Even if we were the sponsors, it doesn't matter. It was still it's a great event to attend. It's a great event to watch, and to see. People don't realize the skill involved in riding of a horse. That's the fact of the matter. I mean, people see it, but until you've been in that environment, there's an enormous amount of skill that those riders show in terms of getting the horses around an arena and jumping up over 1.5 meters and negotiating turns, etc., etc. And I mean, just the little kids that you see in equitation at sort of 7 and 8 or 9 or 10 years old, the amount of skill that they've got to take much bigger animals around and around a show jumping event, and that it's incredible. So it's a sport I've come to love. So it's got a little bit inside me, and that's why I've stuck with it, as well. There was also sort of an emotional attachment after time. It wasn't just about, sponsoring. It was also, there was an emotional attachment to it too. So it's been a good journey. I can't complain at all. It's great to have met good people too.
From a business perspective, I mean, it's also got to be fruitful. There's got to be a trade-off. Nothing is for nothing. Has the equestrian community, through your sponsorships, supported your business?
Absolutely. I mean, it's been, one must, it's hard. Sometimes you say, well, do we measure it by how many cars do we sell? But it's not just that. There's a community base to it too. The point is, you're involved within community. You are assisting with, somewhere along the line, you're creating an opportunity for people. So, with the sponsorship, people came in and had the opportunity to ride and participate, because without that money, maybe that wouldn't even happen. Maybe you could only have 10 riders because that's all that could be afforded or whatever. So that part is important for me too. It's not just about what sales do I get, But in terms of this equestrian community, they've supported me unbelievably. I mean, I've got some really great customers, and very loyal customers. It's unfair to probably mention, individuals as such as customers and say, these people have supported me, because maybe I leave somebody out and they say, well, why didn't you mention me? But I can't. There are certain people that, that they've been so loyal, and they won't buy a car from anywhere else. They even come and buy other makes from me, and I shouldn't be saying that on a interview like this, but they do. They come to me for advice on other vehicles, and we arrange it. So the relationships have come a long way in terms of that. But just I know that even Nissan, though, countrywide have had lots of sales out of being involved with equestrian. You don't expect somebody to come all the way from, say, Durban or Polokwane to support me only. So it's understandable that they purchase within their environment because that's part of their community too. So but I know that equestrian people have supported countrywide, because I've even spoken to some of them, and they have. So it has been a very good and fruitful relationship for 10 years. I know that it was kind of Nissan had pulled out at this would have been this Easter, but that's just a function of where we are in the world, to be quite frank. The motor industry, especially South Africa, was starting to slow down, and difficult times were looming before COVID. That's the truth of the matter. It's just the way it was, and the market was starting to decline. And worldwide, Nissan were making certain changes and gestures that certain sponsorships had to be stopped, and unfortunately that does happen. But the 10 years that Nissan were involved has been a fruitful one, and very good for both myself and the brand.
Well, it's a perfect opportunity to let me tell viewers that even though Nissan pulled up, sitting on the sponsorship committee, I called you up. I know that whenever you see my name pop up on your phone, you probably know what it's about. And once again, you were more than ready to come to the party at Easter Show in your private capacity as Mark White Nissan, as one of the big sponsors of the show. Unfortunately, COVID reared its ugly head, and that never happened. But it's an opportunity for me to say thank you. And to just encourage equestrians out there, or anybody else who might be watching, to pay back the support that you have given to the sport over all these years, because you have invested a lot of money. And Mark, you're always there for the equestrian fraternity to do a deal. So, and to help people out and to go the extra mile. And I have to say that on this recording. So if anybody is looking to shop around for a new vehicle, or to perhaps just pick your brain, or to trade up, you are very, very approachable. Do you have people out of the blue calling you up and say, I'm a rider, I saw you at the show? Is that normally the breaking ice line?
I get a few of those, but it's more for further sponsorship, so it's quite difficult. I do get a lot of requests, and I'm sorry for those that I've had to say no to, but I do get a lot of requests for sponsorships, and I understand why, because I'm there and people see it. But we can only do so much, unfortunately. But we do get people that just phone out of the blue and say, you supported equestrian and we want to support you. And that's how it actually does kind of happen quite often. And in fact, some people don't even just come to me. They just come to the dealership and buy a car. And then I go, after the fact of the deal is done, they don't even come in and knock on my door and say, look, can I get a better deal? I'm a horsey person, whatever it is. They just support. They bought the car on their own, came into the dealership, were happy with what they received, and bought the car or done the business that they needed to do, and then just carried on. And they don't even say anything. But I know that they bought because I've seen them and I know who they are. So, it's not even that they come to me even all the time. So that's why I know that the equestrian people do feel are grateful for the sponsorship that we've provided over the years, because they do come in there and just do their business with us without even coming to me, and I'm forever grateful for that. So, and as I say, anytime anybody wants anything from the equestrian side, I'm always available. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, most definitely. Even when you phone, I'm available to.
Well, I mean, it sometimes takes a few calls.
For money.
Yeah, as I was saying, it sometimes takes a few calls to get you to come back to me, but you always do, Mark. So thank you very, very much. About your business, let's just let people know where you're located, how many dealerships you trade in new vehicles. I think you also trade in second-hand vehicles as well.
Yeah, I know. We got the full, call it the full sort of gambit of the motor industry. We new cars, used cars, service and parts. So, and Nissan dealership in Four Ways Crossing Shopping Centre, and then I have a second-hand operation just up the road in the corner of Witkoppen and Leslie, which is also called Mark White, and that's purely got second-hands in, and we're trying to develop that, but it's under a bit of pressure now with COVID, but let's see how that goes. And then I do have a share in a business in a Mamsam Toti, which is actually called Mark Whiteness and the Mamsam Toti. But I don't go down there that often because I'm not the majority shareholder. It carries my name, but I'm not the majority shareholder. But so we're also down in Durban as well. Well,
so for all the Durbanites watching who want a good deal, do they and they want to go shop in your Mamsam Toti branch? Do they call you up, or do they just come in and say, "Hey, I'm a rider,
hopefully, I'm sure that some just go there, but I do get calls from people, and then I just connect them up with Toti, and then we just carry on from there.
And now, say I'm driving in a Isuzu and I want to upgrade to something. Do you take trade-ins? Do you do trade-ins of other brands?
Trade-ins of any car. We'll even trade in a wheelbarrow now. I'll trade in a horse if I have to. I'm not sure of the value of the horses, but I'll trade in a horse if I have to.
Well, somebody once said to me, never, a great way to lose money is to, or what did they say? Never invest in anything that eats while you're sleeping, Mark. So
correct. I've heard that too.
Yeah.
But there are some good stories about that too. Otherwise, people wouldn't be in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to, before we say goodbye, once again, thank you for everything that you've done for the sport, for everything that you do for the sport. You're not going away. You will be here. Your brand will be around the show jumping arena, I'm sure, for many, many more years.
Yeah. We'll definitely still be here. We hope. Well, we just hope we get all through this, but we'll definitely continue in show jumping. Obviously, COVID has thrown us a few curveballs, not just for our business, but even just for the sport of show jumping. We're not too sure how that's going to pan out and what kind of shows we can even get in before the end of the year, and will shows be conducted behind closed doors, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, unfortunately, like watching football without spectators. It seems quite eerie, and I think the same would apply to show jumping. I think it'd be a little bit eerie with absolutely no spectators. But let's hope that the sport can get back. I'm not too sure where they fit into level 3. There's a cat just arrived. Sorry, Jack. But we're not too sure. I'm not sure where level 3 is for show jumping or for people to ride their horses. But hopefully it gains a bit of quickly momentum, and we can get back to maybe some kind of small shows before year end and keep that part going. So we'll be there for show jumping still, most definitely. But Aidan, also, I think, thank you for trying to make something happen in lockdown, keeping the sport alive, because let's be honest, you have done a phenomenal job in doing that, with all the interviews that you've done. And I think it's been great, and I've watched a few, and it's been nice to be able to, as I say, keep that alive a little bit, that there is still show jumping going on, and, we're not alone out there. So well done on that. I think it was a great
Thanks.
initiative.
Thanks so much, Mark. Thanks for the chat. And just again, once again, to all the viewers, all the equestrians out there, please support Mark White as he supports our sport. If you are looking for a trade-in, an upgrade, or an ultimate tow vehicle, you've got everything on your floor that anybody could wish for.
Yeah, absolutely. Much appreciated, Aidan, and thanks very much.
Take care. Thanks for the chat.
Yeah, you too. Cheers then. Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, bye. Bye.